Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our first ever Sales Confidence online web event. Our vision is to build the largest B2B sales community. Day to day, that means that we help elevate the sales profession and help support individuals and coach at each stage of their career to be more successful. Because of this, we're launching the Sales Confidence membership. It's an annual learning and development membership where you can have access to the best mentors and coaches in the UK and global sales community. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Claire, and I'm the Chief of Staff and Customer Success here at Sales Confidence. I'll be hosting the event tonight, as the man you definitely do all know, James Ski, is currently away on his holidays. Although that isn't stopping him from still being all over your LinkedIn feeds, I'm sure. I want to thank you all for joining us online tonight. We would have loved to see you all in person, but because of the escalation of coronavirus, we wanted to make sure that we're safe here in the UK and Europe. At Sales Confidence, you know that we value people and their well-being above everything, so we're taking this very seriously. I was actually on the phone to my friend last night who's been quarantined for over a week. She's over in Italy at the moment, and I know quite a lot of people are having their offices closed and things like that. So thank you very much for being understanding in this situation. That being said, we didn't want to miss out on hearing lots from our fantastic speakers this evening. So they've got some insights and tips to share with you in their 7-minute speech. I'm very excited to announce that we've got 3 of some of the finest speakers. They've been selected by their sales VPs and sales leaders. They're each going to be sharing some of their words of wisdom with you in their 7-minute speeches. And then at the end of the speeches, we will open it up to a panel discussion so that you can ask them any questions that you have afterwards. So our first speaker of the evening is Gordon Campbell. Gordon's an EMEA account executive at Nudge Global. Nudge is a HR tech provider of financial well-being to corporate and enterprise clients. And he is a quota carrier at Nudge, responsible purely for new corporate business. Over his career, he's progressed from B2C sales roles to corporate and enterprise roles with the likes of Willis Towers Watson, PwC, and now Nudge. Throughout his career, his passion has been working with HR and reward professionals to help them maximize the value of what they offer to their people. Now, his proudest professional achievement has been taking on people and line management responsibilities at PwC and now Nudge. Now, before joining Nudge, he indulged one of his passions and took one of his biggest professional challenges to date, spending 3.5 years running an online prestige car buying business. Outside of his work, when his 16-month-old, not 16-year-old daughter isn't taking up his time, he loves to keep fit at the gym, make a pretty average attempt under his a recommendation of playing golf and geek out at classic car shows all over the country. So I'd like to welcome Gordon Campbell with his speech on using healthy rivalries to improve performance. Please bear with us. This is, as I said, it's very first online event. So perfect. Thank you, Gordon. If you'd like to take it away.
How you doing? Hello. Thanks so much for that introduction. I'm going to share with you all 3 key ways you can use healthy rivalries to help elevate and sustain your performance levels. So, who do you admire most in your field? If you envy, who are you always trying to beat? In sales, we're always competing against one another, and it's easy to think every woman and man for themselves. But instead of just focusing on beating your rivals, seek out the opportunity to learn from them. They're probably telling you something about your own weaknesses, if you're willing to listen. So my 3 top tips are, number 1, observe and love your weaknesses. Number 2, avoid the CRM rabbit hole. And number 3, ego is the enemy of improvement. And most of us on this call are probably part of a sales team, and we rank ourselves depending on where we are in relation to our field. But if we focus too hard on winning at any cost, we're missing a huge opportunity. It doesn't help us to be the best we can be in the long term. So start thinking about peers or colleagues you admire as your benchmark. Ideally, choose someone closely matched but with stronger attributes in certain areas. If you're in a bigger sales team, you can start analysing the top salesperson and figure out what makes them go. So first, observe and love your weaknesses. And you need to be totally honest with yourself here. One good way you can go about doing this is make a quick note after every prospect call about what went well and what you could improve on. Then review these on a weekly basis so that you can identify what your common traits are and what you really need to work on. But remember, there's no objective reality when you compare yourself to other people, so never be too hard on yourself. Once you know your own strengths and weaknesses, see what you can observe from your peers. What can you learn from their relative strengths in your areas of weakness? Are there behaviours you can adopt, techniques you can emulate? I'll give you a personal example. When I joined Note recently, I haven't needed to prospect for about the last 6 years. But it's a pretty big part of the role, and it certainly was for the first few months, and it was pretty obvious that it was a big weakness of mine. Now, this became even clearer when someone else joined the sales team after a month and started booking way more meetings than I had so far. So I asked him how he was going about it. And it turned out there were a couple of really simple things I could immediately factor into my own prospecting. The following month, I saw a 3-fold increase in my meetings, and that increase has been sustained in the month since. So start thinking about where your strengths and weaknesses lie. Are you good at generating meetings but bad at pipeline management? Are you great at setting the scene in meetings but not so great at setting out the next step? Establish a culture of learning from your colleagues. Ask to join in one of your peers' calls or sit in on a meeting if it's appropriate. Make your colleagues feel welcome to do the same. Make a note of what you learn and try and adapt and improve your own based on your learning. And by the way, you don't need to wait for your manager to instigate this type of approach. You can absolutely do it yourself. So my second tip is avoid the CRM rabbit hole at all costs. Now, CRM systems are great. I'm sure we're all using in our roles at the moment, and they're really good for checking what your peers are doing as well and seeing if there's anything you can improve from. But don't fall into the trap of spending too long monitoring what other people are doing. By all means, see what you can learn from your rivals, but catch yourself if you find you're constantly checking their metrics, looking at their pipeline, or looking at what meetings they've got coming up. Focus on your own. The only thing that you can affect when it comes to your numbers and your earnings at the end of the year is your own performance. And my third and final tip is ego is the enemy of improvement. So if you're at the top, don't fall into the trap of thinking others need to learn from you and not the other way around. Never let ego get in the way of self-improvement. No one is the perfect salesperson. Someone on your team is bound to be doing something better than you do right now. And when others are doing well, make sure you celebrate each other's success. Sales is tough, but it's not a zero-sum game. Other people's success is not at your expense. We can all thrive if we focus on improving our collective performance to deliver better value to our prospects and clients. So, remember, everyone on this call will hopefully top their sales leaderboards during our careers, but this shouldn't be our primary focus. First, observe and love your weaknesses. Choose who you want as your benchmark. Then use the people around you to help you expose and improve your weaknesses. Shadow your peers and ask questions. 2, avoid the CRM rabbit hole. Use what you can from the CRM system to learn from other people's interactions. Focus in on what you can affect, that's your own performance and not other people's results. This will help you to continue to improve over time. And finally, ego is the enemy of self-improvement. Sustained sales success is always about teamwork. Stay humble, celebrate success, and be curious about what you can learn from others. especially your biggest rivals. Thank you.
Hiya, we're now finished with Gordon. Thank you very much. Really appreciated that.
I'm back. And the show goes on. Thank you for being patient with us. So thank you very much, Gordon. That was a really interesting speech. I love that you said that about sharing in other people's successes, and definitely ego being the enemy of improvement. Definitely got some key takeaways there. So next up, we have our second speaker of the evening. We've got Sean Hayes. Sean is the head of business development for Northern Europe at Aircall. Now, Aircall are platinum partners with Sales Confidence. We're very excited because they are all in. They're all in with us for SaaS Growth 2020 as well. It's Europe's #1 B2B event for sales and revenue leaders on the 8th of July. So look forward to seeing a lot of you there. Now, Sean is very experienced. He's worked at a number of different startups, including Lantum and Too Good To Go. He's gained experience managing sales teams whilst closing short cycle and enterprise deals. Now, Sean joined Aircall in 2019. He was excited by the project and the opportunity to grow and manage a team in a hyper-growth scale-up. Since arriving at Aircall, the business development team in Northern Europe has increased their quota attainment by nearly 100%. So well done, Sean. Now, I'd like you to all welcome Sean to share his knowledge with you and his speech title, Overcoming Every Buyer's Worst Fear.
Hello. Great stuff. Thanks for having me. So I'll jump right in. So I held a phone interview the other day with a really great candidate from Sweden called Michaela. And we did a short role play exercise, and she didn't have any sales experience. And so usually when candidates have no experience, and often when they do, they just list all of their core features and benefits. And it's really just an exercise to highlight whether they've done preparation for the call. But Michaela was actually really good. She asked a lot of questions. She was paying. She put me at ease. So I asked her, did you do any reading into sales techniques? And she had. And what she said she found most interesting was an article that said the biggest fear of any buyer is that they'll make the wrong decision. So I thought, that's actually very good. Let's base my talk around it at next month's sales confidence event. Because in sales, as we all know, sometimes people, myself included, we like to overcomplicate things with acronyms and maybe fuddy sales techniques. But Michaela's statement is true when you break it down. In the buyer's mind, whilst there are lots of decisions at play, is this the right product? Is it the right timing? Will we get a good return on investment? Once it all is said and done, when you click send on the DocuSign, you need to feel like you're making the right decision. And yes, it helps if you have the best product or service in the market, but if that was all that mattered, there'll be one company in every vertical that won everyone's business. Aircall would be everyone's phone system already. So putting products aside, what can you do to make the buyer feel like by going with you, they're making the right decision? And there's a lot of content to get through in 7 minutes here, so brace yourself. Luckily, it's recorded, so you can go back over it if you miss anything. But I've broken it down into 3 sections. So the pitch, the close, and the follow-up. So let's start with the pitch. There are a few things here that will make the buyer feel at ease. So pitching the company in the past, present, and future, pitching the whole company, and pitching outcomes and social proof. So I know you'll probably all give an introduction to the company as part of your pitch already, but it's important that you make the buyer understand the company's journey. So to do this, you need to pitch the company in the past, the present, and the future. The past, so how you started, what your vision was. The present, what you built, how you've got to where you are now, how fast you've grown. And the future, it could be your next fundraising, essentially what they'll miss out on if they don't jump on board now. You don't need to go into specifics, but it's really a big picture pitch. It helps them understand the story of the company. There's the old adage that people buy the person and not the product, but people buy the company too, which brings me on to my second point related to the pitch, which is pitch the whole of the company. This is where you can go into specifics. So you can tell them about your support team that speaks 18 languages and never sleeps, or your CTO that used to work at GCHQ. Essentially, you're giving them tasty anecdotes. you can have an amazing product with amazing features, but often these anecdotes are things that get spoken about between stakeholders after a demo or meeting. And anecdotes are also an important part of the final point related to the pitch as well. So pitching outcomes with social proof. So when will the buyer know that they've made the right decision? Essentially, when they've seen the outcome of their decision. So you need to give them a real taste of what the outcome of their decision will be. And social proof is really important here because humans have a herd mentality. So if they feel like other reputable companies made the same decision, they'll feel like it's the right decision. So rather than just saying, we can save your reps 2 minutes of call that otherwise would be spent on admin, you can combine it with social proof by telling them we save Uber, delivery, and Stripe sales teams in 2 minutes per call. And this is going to make them feel safe and warm in the knowledge that they're in a herd with other reputable companies. So to recap quickly on the pitch, so it's pitching in the past, present, and future, pitching the whole company, and pitching outcomes along with social proof. So now onto the close. So there are 2 points here, trialing and stacking. So firstly, it sounds simple, but where you can offer a trial, do. A lot of companies don't offer a trial because maybe they think that you won't get full use of the system without proper onboarding. The problem here is that it gives the impression to the buyer that the seller could be hiding something. Is it not intuitive? Does it not work? If you leave these questions unanswered, the buyer will worry they could be making the wrong decision, especially if your competitors offer trials. Now on to stacking. So pricing is important in any decision. The buyer needs to feel like they're getting value for money. So when delivering the price, you get buy-in, you need at least to match the perceived value of what you're presenting. So to do this, you value stack. You include all the things that you get included for the price. You list the product, the features, the onboarding support, feature releases around the corner. But it's also important that you basically stack pain as well. So you've asked all these questions not to remove the problems. You need to make the problem seem as big as possible at the end as well. In sense here, you add need, which adds more value to the things you've listed as you value stack. So an example, okay, you told me that your current phone system has poor connectivity, integrations are clunky, impacts of this, your team's unhappy, you can't make calls, inevitably, it's affecting your ability to hit quota. You've stacked their pain, and then when you stack the solution next to it, it adds more value to the whole package. So in the close, it's offer a trial, pain stack, and then value stack. Cool. And finally, the follow-up. So this section probably sounds really simple. It can be summed up really in one word, which is professionalism. Because sometimes it's the small habits that we forget to do that make the biggest difference. So professionalism goes a long way here. It's probably the first prolonged experience that the buyer will have with an employee at the company. So your follow-up email needs to arrive promptly, include a good level of personalization throughout. You can add the buyer's company logo onto slide decks or quotes that you present. The decks that you actually send as well, could they include relevant information specific to their use case, maybe with case studies or a comparison between their current system and the one you're offering. Again, it seems like habits that we think we're all doing, but when a room full of people are reviewing quotes, the more professional you can be in presenting these materials, the safer the buyer will feel in thinking that they've made the right decision by going with you. Cool. So yeah, as I said at the beginning, 7 minutes isn't a very, very long time, and that's a fair amount of content. But to summarize, as salespeople, we often like to blame the product when things aren't going well. But by doing the things I mentioned in this talk, hopefully you can still make the buyer feel like they're making the right decision. And if you do all of those things perfectly and they still don't buy, then you can blame the product. Cool. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sean. Really, really valuable tips there. So our final speaker of this evening is Alleyne, and he is from Twilio. So Alex is an award-winning sales strategist. He's delivered 8 revenue numbers for multinational companies, along with teaching, coaching, and mentoring individuals across the globe. Alex is renowned for delivering daily content, helping salespeople to build pipeline and drive revenue while avoiding common career pitfalls. This culminated in Alex being recognised as LinkedIn's #3 top voice in the sales thought leadership category. Alongside this, Alex works for hypergrowth cloud communications provider Twilio as one of the founding members of the EMEA region. Alex has delivered the largest and most transformative transactions in the region's history, which has led him to becoming a strategic advisor to the most disruptive and innovative organizations in the world. Beyond this, Alex is an active diversity and inclusion advocate, having delivered multiple community lead events through partnerships with BT, Accenture, Barclays, Vodafone, and Thomson Reuters. Alex has a distinction in sales management from Edinburgh Napier University. So I would say Alex is somewhat an expert. So definitely very excited to hear his speech today. So he is going to speak on the 3 characteristics that you can't teach.
Hey everybody. So I thought I'd just come on and answer some questions while we wait for the next speaker while he's having some difficulties. Richard, I found your question quite interesting. What's your best interview questions for finding out a candidate's true desire for sales? So myself personally, I'm kind of involved in both sales and marketing. They kind of go hand in hand, at least in my world they have. So for the sales side of things, the general questions we can ask are kind of like, what do you want from this, right? And likelihood is they're going to come back with more, I guess, standard answers. Money, I want to buy some stuff, I want some financial freedom, I want to go really far, I want to start closing deals, and you kind of get the idea of, oh, I can come back to that question afterwards and actually let the speakers handle it. So I'm going to remove myself again and we'll come back.
Did you miss my whole thing? I just did it to myself, did I?
I think so, Alex, actually, yeah. No, we've been waiting for you for a few minutes, so I've been trying to go. So are you okay to do it again?
Let's do it again. Let's go.
Perfect. Okay, guys, so we're going to have Alex one more time do his speech. I'll be back just afterwards. Thanks.
So sorry about that, guys. Guess good practice for me. And thanks for being patient. Really excited to be online. So the title for my topic is the 3 characteristics that you can't teach a salesperson. But before going into them, I want to tell you all a little bit about my backstory. So I was born into a single parent household, living with my mother and my sister, which inherently made me the man of the house, you could say. So I onboarded this onus of responsibility to be a provider and someone that my family could rely on. Generally, I had a positive upbringing, but my mother was big on education. So we went to great schools and engaged in a range of different sports and activities. But with that said, it wasn't without hardship, to the extent where for a number of years, I shared a single bed while living in my aunt's house, just in order to get by. This early adversity ignited a desire in me to want more from my life, so I kickstarted multiple business ventures. The first being a professional gaming team on Call of Duty, where we competed all across Europe. It certainly wasn't a bad gig getting paid to play video games for a living while I was in my teenage years, you could say. And following on from this, I had a number of additional ventures, including an eBay store, which I started when I was age 13, where I used to buy, refurbish and resell phones. By the age of 16, to the amusement of many of my friends, I was selling fries at McDonald's. And as funny as this was to my peers, I was hungry, not literally, but to earn money and to make a success of myself. So a few years on from that, I was awarded a full scholarship studying law at university. And I thought at that time I had life pretty much figured out. But what I lacked at the time was a passion or a desire for what I was studying, as I felt like it was a path that had been laid out for me, as opposed to one that I had any active interest in. So after much deliberation and to the horror of my mother, I decided to drop out. And at this point, I felt I had nothing and in essence had lost it all. And what I did have was this chip on my shoulder, wanting to prove all of the doubters wrong, that I could indeed make something of my life. So I secured my first role in the city. And shortly after, I really committed myself to outworking everyone. I was first in, I was last out, And every day of the working week, I had this laser focus on wanting to make my mark on every company that I came across. All the while, I'd always possessed these certain characteristics that all of these early life experiences had shaped and ultimately became pivotal in getting me out of this dark hole that I was in. And this is when I became intentional about seeking to understand what it was that was in me that took me from this McDonald's worker and this university dropout to an elite sales professional and recent graduate. And this takes us onto the question you've all actually been waiting for. What are these 3 characteristics you can't teach any salesperson? And to me, they're drive, passion, and hunger. But you might be wondering what this actually means for the profession. So I like to break salespeople out into 2 buckets. You've got the 5% and the 95%, with the 5% representing the elite and the 95 representing the remainder. And a core component of what separates the 5% from the 95 are those unteachable characteristics that I just referenced. So you might be wondering what this means for the 95. Does this mean that they can never become the elite? Well, not necessarily. Because if you think about it, as much as you can't teach someone those characteristics, what you can do is ignite in yourself or ignite in others those things that reconnect you to your why and your sense of purpose. So the reason that I shared my story with you as an example of really how your early life experiences may indeed be the fuel that you need to ignite your own fire. I've previously spoken about in other articles on LinkedIn, the science of sales and the fact that you can teach anyone the systems, the tools, and the processes to reach a reasonable level of competence in sales. But the difference with the 5% is that as much as they have those unteachable characteristics, they combine them with an excellent proficiency at the skills which you can teach. Things such as emotional intelligence, interpersonal skills, and sales process. So as much as there's certain skills that can be taught, naturally an individual's ability to onboard those learnings and execute against them varies greatly. So top tier sales professionals are able to absorb and implement those learnings effectively while demonstrating consistency and delivering time and time again. So whenever interviewing or looking to learn from other salespeople, I'm always looking out for those innate capabilities as opposed to just focusing on the functional skills. And as much as they both have a role to play, modeling yourself on someone who already has the key ingredients that will motivate them over time can play a vital role in ensuring you're hiring or working alongside a potential star of the future. So whenever you're thinking about how you can tap into that additional layer of your capability, consider whether you've ignited your unteachable characteristics to maximize your own potential. Claire, I wanted to say thanks so much for such a generous introduction. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I look forward to your questions. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Alex. Really, really learned a lot from your speech. And as people were saying in the chat, you are a natural on screen. You can see how you're LinkedIn number 3 on thought leadership. Now, we've been getting quite a few questions throughout the event, so I'd like to open it up. If you could all join back onto the screen, please, our superstar speakers. And we'll open it up to questions from our audience. So Sean, what's the best interview questions for finding out candidates' true desire for sales?
I inadvertently answered this in the chat because I didn't know we'd be coming back on.
Yeah, you can answer it again.
Oh, cool. Yeah, for somebody with no experience, I'd quite like to ask broad questions just to see where people take things anyway in interviews. But with somebody with no experience, I would ask, what do you know about sales? Because for somebody that has a passion, for somebody that is kind of looking along this route for the right reasons, you immediately see in their face, it kind of lights up and they've got things they can talk about. They know what you mean by asking that broad question. Whereas those that kind of saw the advert on LinkedIn or online, saw the company looked right, just want a job, just want that first step and have no real desire to actually, they kind of just dipping their toe in the water. They kind of look confused and ask you what you mean by that. it's really broad, but it kind of gets to the root of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. So next we've got a question for Gordon. How do you go about building a business case for a champion when the benefit is not so easily measured and differs a lot from one business to another?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think it's a really, really good one. And I think at Nudge, we have, a bit of experience in this because, with our product, it is quite difficult to actually measure the outcome of the service that we provide. But nonetheless, we do also get asked to build business cases. So the way we go about it is we use our own research and we use research from the market to actually apply some metrics and some science to what we're putting forward. So even though it's quite difficult to quantify the outcome, you can start to quantify the size of the issue for your prospect. And so if they can then start to see, in our case, it's quantify how many people from their workforce might be being affected by these issues, then they can start to really see the size of the issue for themselves and the need to actually address that issue. So hopefully that gives you a bit of guidance for, that sort of approach to business cases.
Great, thank you. So this is a question to everyone. What have you found to be the biggest challenge in your career so far? So I open up to Alex first.
Happy to. I think through telling my own story, you could argue I probably touched on the biggest challenge through the story. Being in a position where so much is pitted around, I guess, education and maybe a degree and things like that being the door to success, at that age, being that dropout and sitting in a position where you're touted for greatness and then it feels like it's pulled from you. It was an enormous challenge. Took me down into really a bit of a depression, and I had to find something in me to kind of pull me out of that and get me enthused about making a difference on the world again. So biggest challenge was probably, dropping out, feeling like I lost it all and needing to rebuild back from base.
How about yourself, Gordon?
I think for me, as you said in your introduction, Claire, the change from an industry that I knew really well to actually just go jack it all in and start a startup from scratch was my biggest challenge. And it was a really interesting experience because, there's a lot of things you take for granted when you've worked in a particular sector, in a particular industry for a while. And as soon as you kind of take those, almost like safety net away, you find out what you're really made of. So yeah, that was a great experience, something I'd never change and has taught me more than, I ever could have learned by just keep doing the same thing I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you both for sharing. How about you, Sean? The biggest challenge?
I think in the early days of kind of after leaving school and going into sales, I think you soon realise that I think when you kind of get into management, anyone gets into management positions, generally they get the same buzz out of seeing other people succeed as they do themselves, and they generally have a will for those around them to do well and succeed. But you do find in certain office environments, not Aircall, but as you kind of go through companies, there are people that aren't happy in kind of seeing you succeed or do well. And I think actually not taking that personally very early on and kind of not letting it get to me and kind of, I think that was probably from that point of view, that was kind of the things to overcome and recognize that some people, I don't know, it's not that people are out to get you or anything like that, but they just don't have that same. I think somebody once said to me that if you can be happy for other people, even when you're not happy, then you will always have a reason to be happy. And I think not everyone shares that. And in the early days when people kind of put you down because you're doing well, it can be quite hard, but bouncing back from that.
Yeah, definitely. We're getting loads of different questions coming in. The next one, so from James, he was asking if anyone wants to chip in on this. Have you noticed an increase in people out of office since coronavirus? I know we were chatting about this before. Certain people have had their office closes whose the had their office closed. So who wanted to answer that one?
I'm happy to start. I mean, what I have noticed is a massive increase in the sales of toilet paper and pasta. But outside of that, yes, I mean, we had an announcement. Our office is now closed until the start of April. So the short answer to the question is yes. Almost all of my meetings have been converted to virtual as well. So I think platforms like this and Zoom are probably very, very happy people at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Getting a lot more business. But it's great that we can still run events like this and still have interaction with people from our community. So definitely good. Thanks for that. So next we've got someone, if you'd like to give your advice on some frameworks and processes for creating habits to be successful in your company. Who wants to answer that one?
I'll take it. Whilst frameworks and processes sounds very ordered and structured, and structure is very important, it just falls into one of the many good habits that you need to keep yourself in to be successful. I think it seems like a really small thing, but I think if you remind yourself of all those good habits that lead to success, then that you can't really look much further than that in staying successful. So one thing like that is, it's easy at the start of the year to have like a kickoff and say, okay, here are the 15 things you need to do every day. How many of those are you doing? But like, how often do you remind yourself of those things? Like, can you put something next to your desk that actually reminds yourself to stay in those habits? And I think if you do that kind of daily, weekly checkup, it can kind of set you off for success.
Great tips. So for everyone, the next question we've got, outside of work, what do you do for fun? I know, Gordon, you already spoke a little bit about playing golf and things like that.
Yeah, so I play golf pretty badly and, unapologetically, but, it's character building, being bad at a sport, I think. So I think that definitely helps with sales where you have to face a lot of adversity. So yeah, I think anything to kind of stay active and keep active is good. We can work a lot of long hours in sales, so it's always good to have something that takes you away from the office on a regular basis, gets you a bit of fresh air and kind of gives you something else to focus on and be competitive about.
And for me, whether you call it fun or not, I outside of work also fight in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu multiple times a week. So for me, it's a critical release valve. As I say, calling it fun maybe depends on on who you're sparring with on the day, but it's a great release and helps me get that spike of endorphins on most evenings.
Sounds good. Yeah, definitely you need to have a little bit of release after the intense kind of work that you do in sales. How about yourself, Sean?
So like Alex said, I've been stocking up on canned goods and toilet roll for the last few weeks. So that's kind of turned into a bit of a hobby. I moved to Paris 5 months ago. So much of my free time is actually spent getting to know the city. So because electric scooters are legal here as well, basically just scooting around the city on an electric scooter and kind of going to the Eiffel Tower and all these cliche places and having a pinch myself moment that I'm living in Paris, I guess.
Yeah, living in Paris sounds like an absolute dream. Although maybe not at the moment. You said some slight worries over in Europe. We've got some more poll questions going on, but I just want to thank you all for joining us for our first online web event. And thank you for everyone who's signed up online. As you can see, we had some teething issues and some technical difficulties, including Alex doing his speech twice. But I hope you've all learned quite a lot. I know I definitely have some key takeaways from our speakers, and we'll be releasing some more promotion around our next events and how these are going to happen. So thank you very much to all of our speakers, Gordon, Sean, and Alex this evening. And thank you all for listening.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.